Excuse me, John, just a question.
Yeah.
The old FM stations, a long time ago, were not on the frequency they were today. They basically shared the same band as the AM stations, did they?
No, the FMs were 42 to 46 megahertz.
Ah, okay.
So right before the war.
Right.
We were trying to find build radios that could pick up, super high frequencies. It's like you're building something for 2 or 3 gig now. Back then, 50 megahertz was super high frequency, so it's hard to get radios that performed well that were inexpensive. And then everything was frozen during the war, and then after war they reallocated the band. I think because the two-way broadcasters, two-way radio wanted the low band space.
There's a great documentary about that, which was done by Ken Burns.
Yes.
Empire of the Air.
Yeah,
it's
very
an
good.
excellent documentary.
Incredible. Yep.
Yeah, what channel was that FM? What?
You know, I don't remember.
Don't remember. Because I was wondering if someone else took it over, that channel.
I'm thinking 93.7, but I may be wrong on that. I've got it on the website. It just, I can't, again, there's over 1900 pictures there and lots and lots of words. I can't remember all the stuff, but I think it was the mid-band there. And then changing call letters is pretty common. The Radio 104s had like 9 call letters, just representative of 3 or 4 of them, in 5 or 6 different formats, from hard rock to Nashville to light rock, a little bit of everything, country, rap, had a lot of stuff there. And of course they're back as the new Radio 104 now.
Yeah, they were originally in Waterbury somewhere,
Yeah.
and then they moved to West Peak to get into Hartford.
Yep,
Yeah.
they were on Prospect on Route 69. They just took the tower down last month.
Oh.
Here's PLR in the 60s or early 70s using the Dayglow orange. Drug references, of course, I turned on. Up your FM dial.
How do they take down the tower? They just like cut the cables and let it fall one way?
If there's nothing around it, they often, if the tower can't be climbed, it isn't salvageable for anything else. They'll often just cut it. I've seen that done a couple of times. It starts really, really slow, but boy, when it gets down to the bottom, the top of that tower is moving really fast.
They did that to CCC's West Hartford Tower, didn't they?
Yep. But this one, they actually had built a cellular. They had some stuff on the old 104 tower. They had to keep going, so they built a cell tower right next to it. And because they were only 20 feet apart, they couldn't risk dropping the thing and having it go awry, so they took it down with a crane. It's a lot easier. So.
Yeah, but a lot more expensive.
This was one of the unique promotional things, most unique promotional things I've ever seen. This was an insert. I think it went out in the newspaper or maybe in something like Connecticut Magazine. If you ripped it out vertically on the dotted line, you could play the left-hand part on your turntable. It's one of those flexi-discs.
Oh, yeah.
And it was when KISS had first gone to the Beautiful Music. They wanted to let people know what Beautiful Music was like, and there was a sample of their programming. That's quite unique.
What year is that? Do you have any idea?
80s. They made the format switch. Yeah, I would say. Well, can we tell by what they're wearing there? I'm not sure, but late 70s, early 80s, I think. They switched to the KISS format with the rock music in '84. So.
I see 3 former TIC people that didn't last after the
Dick Bertel.
and Mike Ogden and John Stevens.
Great.
They were BMI at one time, weren't they?
Yes.
They were BMI?
Yes, they sure were.
Oh, its duty was emerited.
Yeah. They started, when they were WBMI, they were music casting. They were doing music.
Yeah.
And they had tones they put on the air that would mute the receivers when the commercials came on and stuff. This was a first for me, and I've been around for a while. Collinsville, Connecticut. I'd heard of this station, but I drove by a few weeks ago with my wife on a Saturday. A little sign on the side of the road that says Radio 1620, Radio Collinsville. So I tuned it in, and the guy invited me behind a kayak rental place, and he had a radio station and a pickup truck. That's a whip antenna with a 1500 milliwatt part 15 transmitter on the pole. Those boards on the right are some of the ground radios he's got, all soldered together. It's solar powered, and he's got a CD boombox with a microphone stuck in front of it. He picks up the mic and talks, and then he plays the CD, and then he talks. It's micro broadcasting, apparently is legal. You can run under a 1/10 of a watt with a 10-foot antenna. It serves the community. He has commercials. He does lost dog announcements and wedding announcements and stuff. I was blown away. I waited for him. He kept on saying, "Come on by," but some of it was pre-recorded. I waited about a half hour for him until my wife got pretty impatient. We had the dog with us. We walked the dog on the river, but my wife says we're not going to wait any longer, so we didn't stay. But I would have liked to have met the guy. Kind of unique. Pirate radio, of course, is something that broadcasters don't condone in any way. This is a pirate from Hartford, WYBS. Hartford's got a huge history of pirate broadcasters. It's still, you get huge fines for that. You get the equipment confiscated. In theory, you can go to jail. Broadcasters hate pirates the way ham hate pirates on ham bands. So, but you can't talk about broadcast history without having some of that stuff there. And then Central Connecticut College goes back quite a ways. A lot of the college stations, not a lot of them, but HUS and Trinity and Wesleyan were pirate stations. Originally, they used the gas pipelines to transmit There's a book called The Gas Pipeline Network, Gas Pipe Network, and they use that before carrier current. And the risk is, of course, if you have a little discontinuity and a little spark there. Now, you couldn't pay me enough. I do a lot of stuff with high voltage, but you could not pay me enough to put the output of a transmitter, I don't care what power, onto a gas pipeline. But they did that in, because the gas pipelines ran throughout the dorms. But WFCS, which was WCCS, that started with that way, and then they ran a pirate AM station for a while back in the 50s and 60s. And then in the early 70s, they got a license for a 10-watt FM station. And that's all I have formally for you guys. Yeah, so thank you. Any questions you want to talk about?
I just wanted to add, John, I was on transmitter duty the night we were carrying the War of the Worlds, and I was on duty that night, and man, that switchboard lit up. We couldn't answer the phones fast enough. No, ma'am, it's only a play. No, ma'am, it's only a play. No, sir, don't worry, the Martians aren't here. What a wild night that was.
Where was that?
Just two of us on duty that night, and we were trying to answer the phones.
Amazing.
Amazing, yes.
There was some of the one last picture we showed this when people were coming in. This is the Channel 61 tower. You know, with the dates, with DTV, I'm a radio guy. With DTV, I can't keep track of new channel numbers, but it's the WTIC TV tower in Rattlesnake Mountain in Farmington. That's 1,450 feet, 1,410 feet to where my foot is. This picture was taken about 20 years ago, but that's taller than the Empire State Building by a couple hundred feet. Great place for a ham antenna, somebody said, and sure enough, Arnold Chase, who built it, had a 220 repeater at the top, and it was so good that I remember with a 1-watt walkie-talkie making an auto patch through it from a basement of a restaurant in Springfield. That's how good the repeater was for that. I mean, it's 1,900 feet above sea level, and he had state-of-the-art equipment. So it's a ham's dream to fire up that tower on some band. But,
How did they ever erect these towers like that on top of a mountain? I mean, what did they use?
Chopper.
They usually use a crane to set up the first section, and then they temporarily guide that, and then they have what's called a gin pole, which if you have, it's like a tower section. They hoist a tower section up the side, and it's like the boom of a crane. They swing it over and they lift up the next section and put it in place. Then the gin pole climbs up 20, or in this case 50 feet to the next section. They bring it up. Recently they used a helicopter to replace some antennas on the top, because it's a lot quicker that way. But the risk with the helicopter is something goes wrong, you got a
I
problem.
saw the way those guy wires are guided at the bottom with the razor wire, and if that thing ever let loose.
Yeah, yeah. This tower, it's a 14-foot face and it's solid steel legs all the way up. I mean, you'd have to have a plane crash or or vandalism or some terrible structural failure, but they take very, very good care of it. They just finished this summer greasing the guy wires. A guy rides down the guy wires on a bosun's chair, greasing the wire, not in front of him, bad news, but behind him, because the bosun's chair has brakes. And if you grease it in front of you, you have got
Real problem.
Serious trouble.
But the top guy wires are at a 60-degree angle or whatever from vertical, and they slide, they come down those. Guy comes out of the bushes covered head to toe with grease. He's got a big mitt and just greases the wire.
John, I have a question
Yes.
on the choice of frequency. Why is FM always on odd KC? Is it just...
It's just what the what Congress and the FCC agreed upon originally. You know, in Europe it's even. It's just what they thrown away. I think probably thinking of it, they wanted to stay away. The band starts at 88. They wanted to stay at least 100 kilohertz away from 88 because the station could deviate plus or minus 75 kilohertz. So if it was on 88.0, it would actually go down to the audio section of channel. In theory, it might. So I think that's answering my own question, so to speak, or answering. And that's probably why it keeps them away from the band. And of course, 107.9, 100 kilohertz away from 108 is where the aircraft instrument landing systems are. So you want to stay away from that too. You can get the wrath of the FCC if you interfere with the FAA really quickly. At WCCC, we got a call about 10 years ago. We're on 106.9 from the FAA, and you listen when they call you, and they say, well, we think you're interfering with the VOR, which is the navigation system at Bridgeport, which is on 108.1. And I thought it was too far away to do anything, and so I talked to guys who, well, you let me know when you want it, we can shut our station down, and you can see if the interference goes away. That's the easiest way to do it. And they're always surprised when broadcasters are willing to do that. But long story short, he said, well, I'm going to be flying over your site tomorrow morning, and I'll call you. He said, you would call me from a cell phone from a plane? Isn't that illegal? He said, we could do that. So he called me. He sees I'm talking to him on the phone, and I said, you're listening? This is when we have Howard Stern on. He goes, well, you guys are playing music all morning. I said, we're not playing music. Howard Stern talks the whole time. So it's not our station. And sure enough, they flew over the tower site. In the meantime, I'd gotten our spectrum analyzer and taken measurements both of our signal and of 108.1. We had nothing there. It was possible that we did, but we proved that it wasn't. But he flew over and we turned the transmitter on and off. He goes, no, it's coming from WeB 107.9 in Bridgeport. So, but you want to respond and jump really quickly when the FAA says, you think you're causing interference with life safety. That's a bad thing to report.
Yeah.
You have any questions?
CCC, will they ever go back to HD? They were on HD for a while, AM and FM.
Yes, the AM will never go back on. The FM was pulled off because of cost. It costs a lot of money to run HD, both licensing fees and also electricity. It's very inefficient. We were generating 115 watts of HD power with a transmitter that drew 80 amps at 208 volts. Incredibly inefficient. So it's a lot of money. So when the economy got bad and they were faced with either laying people off, particularly people in my department, we shut it off, and over the course of those 6 months we got 6 letters, 6 emails, that was it. We spent $250,000 maybe for 6 people. I hated to turn it off, but it was better, or lay somebody off.
What do you do with the old HD equipment?
But it's still there. The owner we may decide to turn it back on at some point. I don't think so, but people have offered to buy it from us, but until...
So HD requires like a specialized radio to pick up the signals, or?
Yeah, specialized. They're inexpensive and they're actually very good quality, but AM HD
So it's
doesn't
not
work.
like that XM radio stuff, right?
No, it's free. I mean, you get extra channels, it's free, so that's even...
It's actually software-defined radio. I've got the audio goes bad. I cycle power on the stupid tuner and it works again. And last week there was a power surge, and the next day I turned on the HD radio and it didn't work. Any FM station that was transmitting HD, I got a tone about 400 hertz. And that's all I got. And the stations that weren't HD weren't putting out anything on my tuner. One of them, a little bit. I cycle power and it works fine now.
John, I have a question on AM in my car. I scan it every now and then when I'm in a strange thing. There's a station and the stereo light goes on in my car radio and the sound is in stereo.
What year and model is your car?
96.
So you've got an AM stereo radio in there then. They made them go out from the 80s into the 90s.
Okay.
And it's a 25 hertz pilot tone that the station transmits if it's in stereo. And
You can tell the difference right away. It's popping out.
It's good. AM stereo is actually a good technology that went nowhere fast.
Who is that?
In Connecticut, the 9 WQUN 1220, the 23 amp station does it, and I think ICC does it in Bridgeport.
So that's legitimate?
Yeah, there's one more in Connecticut, maybe WFIF in Milford.
Didn't TIC do it for a short
Yes,
time?
I installed it at DRC. TIC had it, 910 had it for a couple of years, but it went, the FCC, instead of deciding on one system, decided on 5 systems and let the marketplace decide. So there's no incentive for the manufacturers to come out with radios because they didn't know what standard to use. Bad decision all around. It's good technology, bad politics.
John, TIC is broadcast, WTIC is broadcasting in HD, isn't it?
Yes.
Now, above and below 1080, you know what I'm going to say.
Well, they call it, IBOC is the technical word for in-band on-channel. They call it iBuzz because it produces tons of hash.
Yeah.
On-channel up. Before HD, if we put out that splatter there, we would have gotten huge fines from the FCC.
Yeah.
But they allowed this new technology that takes up 3 channels instead of 1 channel.
Well, I thank you very much, John.
My pleasure.
It's been a real pleasure to have you present a great, interesting look and listen to the history of broadcasting here in Connecticut. So it's been a real pleasure to have you here today.
My pleasure.